Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. And we're now in our 8th roundtable for the Equity Talk series. And today we're going to be talking about Sikkai across chapters. My name is Neha Kumar, and I'm the VP at large, one of the VPs at large. And we've been doing these equity talks for a while now, since March, and getting closer to the end of the series. There are some questions in the Slido that I've already added based on the questions that came up in a session that Eunice had coordinated earlier this week. So I think that we could use some of those, and Kale has them as well. But yeah, we're excited to be here to talk about chapters, to talk about how we could do better with chapters in Sikkai, and just to have a space to kind of focus only on chapters experiences. We did try to get to some of this when we were talking about being global. That was the very first session that we did. But it's great to have you all here to kind of get deeper into some of those topics. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Eunice, who's kindly helped with the organization of this. And Eunice is our VP for chapters. So Eunice, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, Neha. Thank you very much. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. So my name is Eunice Sari. I'm the VP for chapters. As Neha said, I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity today to see a lot of you and to talk about chapters. So I have been in EC actually as the VP for chapters 3 years ago, since 2018. And before that, I was actively involved as the Asian Development Committee. So actually, yeah, been doing a lot of work with chapters prior to my work as a VP for chapters. So especially, I was helping to build the chapters in Asia, with the especially in Southeast Asia as a part of my role in Asian development. So becoming the VP for chapters has been a lot of a learning curve for me because there are a lot of things that needs to be done, and also like it is not easy to bring a lot of people together, especially one size doesn't fit all. Each of the chapters, even though they are coming from the same region, they have different needs, and we are getting there. It's a long process, and I know that it is not something that we can do in one year or maybe 2 years, but it's a longer process because we're dealing with a lot of people. And I'm really glad that the Sikkai EC actually have been really supportive in helping me to do this role. And yeah, so I really hope that I can have a lot of conversation with you and trying to answer. I probably do not have all the answers, but yeah, which like a place for we are all together can have a discussion. So without further ado, I would like to pass it to Kale, who is our moderator today. On to you, Kale.
Thanks so much, Eunice. Yeah, it's early here, so I'm only somewhat certain I'm your moderator, Kale Passmore, they, them, he, him, speaking to you from unceded Treaty 6 territory, which is homeland to the Métis and many other First Nations peoples, from the Dene to the Saulteaux, the Dakota, Lakota, Cree, yeah, and many others. So yeah, as a settler here on these lands in this time of renewed colonialism, I guess I'm thinking about relationships between power, responsibility, communication, which lines are open, which ones aren't. And that's largely why we're here together today to discuss the same things. And it has put this whole series together as a way of doing ground social investigation and hearing people out. And It's been going well so far, so I hope everyone that's present feels free to sort of speak, offer their experiences, their thoughts, and yeah, I guess with that, I'll really quickly cover the code of conduct in brief. It's available, posted in full in a link in the chat. And while I do, introduce yourself, say hi in the chat. As with any time when you offer to speak, we ask you to state your name, affiliation, pronouns. You can add pronouns to your username by right-clicking the box containing your face in the Zoom window and selecting rename. This is encouraged, so only do so if you feel comfortable. We've set this up as a roundtable, meaning anyone is free to offer critique, solutions, or just share your experiences at any time. It's a collaborative discussion of issues and potential solutions around SIGCHI chapters and chapter governance relationships, which sounds so exciting, I know. By attending the roundtable in this time, your consent is ongoing. Any participation, questions, comments, etc., are being recorded, which includes content posted to the chat. After our first hour together, we'll proceed with another half hour of unrecorded time for those who wish to raise issues without existing on the internet until the end of digital time. For the same reasons of privacy and consent, we ask you not to share content from the talk on social media. We will be posting this available in full with additional accessibility options after the event. If you do decide to post after, hashtag SIGCHI and hashtag Equity Talk are your hashtags of choice. We have live cart, an ASL interpreter, Allison, thank you so much, and our magician with a pen, diagramming. We have Slido linked in the chat for posting and upvoting questions as a way to help democratically organize us. We're striving for equitable dialogue here, so we do have to balance comments from the speakers, from the chat, and from Slido. So any questions we don't get around to in this talk, we will address in the blog post, or you can openly discuss them on the Equity Talks Discord channel, which will also be posted to chat soon. If you require any additional services, please just message me, Neha, or another one of today's organizers. In the event of harassment, discrimination, or if you have those additional needs, just let us know. We encourage constructive criticism in this space. Our time together serves to highlight incredibly complicated interactions between systemic policies and individual experiences. And some of these experiences are sources of ongoing frustration and oppression for many. I just want to remind everyone that frustration is valid and that we're here as a diverse group of humans across pretty much every demographic. So be patient, show sensitivity to whoever has the floor. Keep aware of the time and space that you take up and that others may need a moment of silence to collect themselves before speaking. Be critical, but constructively so. Be kind and be supportive. Not everyone's here at the same education level or has access to the same cultures around identity and experiences. So yeah, there may be times when identifying words or phrases come up that feel insensitive or just don't feel right. And if these do, take each other in good faith, offer a quick correction, and we can refocus on the topic of the moment. People's experiences are not up for debate. And that brings us around to, house being kept. And we'll start with the top voted Slido question, which is, why are complaints on reviewers not addressed by the ACM? Feel free to throw your hand up to offer whatever you wish in the chat, and I'll call on people as they come in.
Quick question, Kale, are you looking at the right Slido? Because I don't see that question.
I don't see that either.
I might not be.
Just let me.
Which would?
Yeah, I think that might be the one from the previous.
I love these
session.
early morning.
I'm just sharing it in the chat.
Yeah, the actual relevant top upvoted Slido question would be, could you please comment the map displayed on this post and share more insights? The link contains, I'm gonna do my best to describe this here, SIGCHI membership becoming international, and contains a sort of color map of demographics per country.
So this is actually a post by Regina Bernhard, who's VP Communications and Membership. I don't think that she is here. I'm wondering if anyone else would like to give an answer.
Yeah, I probably want to comment on this because I saw my name here on this map. I did not realize that before. Yeah, because it says here 1, 2, 3. Yeah, because it's quite interesting that in this post saying that Sikkai chapters are key to success, and then it says that that Indonesia is becoming the 10th country on the 10 top countries of the membership for the Sikkai, which is very interesting. And yeah, I'm really happy to hear that, especially when I started the work in Sikkai. It was yeah, there were not many people, and it was, yeah, I remember it was just me and Josh and like maybe just a couple of people, but not a part of the Sikkai, but SEM. So this is, well, it is good to hear that. And like what happened, I think, well, probably what I would like to share is like in Indonesia, it was a SEM. Honestly, was SEM Sikkai honestly was not as popular as IEEE before, because people knew a lot IEEE because the publication for the IEEE went to the journals, and that's why people who are interested in the computer science, they went to IEEE, and that was early in 2014 when we actually like and I think Josh is here as well. Like we started the work with the Sikkai back actually in 2011, and then we were just able to realize it in 2014. Started like bring people together. It's perhaps like a more like what Soraya and Adriana are doing for the Latin community. We look like for the people to get together, and then like we started the first chapter, basically the first chapter in Southeast Asia, and from there actually it's growing like other chapters as well in Malaysia, in Thailand, and everywhere. And also like it has been really helpful because we had this in 2016. We had the first Kai in my first Kai actually, my first Kai in Asia actually. It's not my first Kai, but my first Kai in Asia. And I think Sikkai has done a really great job of starting the Asian Development Committee, which actually really empowered me as one of the team with Aniruddha, Yoshifumi. Actually, like the committee was like started to for orders to prepare for the Kai 2021 in Japan. But then the community did more things beyond this Kai, so it actually helped really support the growth of the chapters as well as the community, and which consequently with the membership. I think that's what it meant, like by the statement here, but I'm not really sure because I was not writing about this map.
Yeah. Thanks, Eunice. Is there a particular sort of question that someone has maybe around that map, or if we want to bridge it into the next Slido question, which is how can we become a more responsive as a community? How can we become more responsive to as a community to the plurality of languages and cultures that make up Sikkai? I think both of those.
Just a quick word about this. I think the question was about the map. And Stacy has shared a newer map from the Kai Town Hall, I guess in the in the Google Doc here. And there may be a typo. I think this is total SIGCHI members per country, not Chi members. But if you do have, if someone here has a particular question about the map, yeah, you could please go ahead and slide out. And I think before we go on to the next question, Soraya has her hand up, so maybe we could go to her first.
Hello, I am Soraya. I am from the Brazilian chapter. I think my comment is related to the map and also to the next question. I see the chapter is really important in SIGCHI since we know who are the researchers in our country. I feel like kind of isolated because I would like to know more about the other chapters. I mean, sometimes I would like to do something and I don't know if that's possible. So if someone else already did before, it would be a lot of much easier. Eunice do many meetings. This is really good because we meet with people from everywhere, but not often I can participate. I would like to do it more, but I don't know. It's like maybe these equity talks gave me another perspective of knowing what happened during the meeting, to have the blog to read afterwards. I mean, if the meetings had these, I don't know, minutes or a blog post, something about the meeting, would make a lot of easier to keep up what people are doing. You know? I think we should be articulated between us. It would make a lot of easier to know what we can do, what people are doing. I feel kind of isolated.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's something we've actually heard come up a number of times across these equity talks, is that need for accessibility, transparency. No, it's being able to stay asynchronously in the know. Would anyone else actually at this moment like to flag experiences, thoughts around this issue in particular?
Yeah, I would.
Adriana, take the floor.
Yeah, so just real quickly, and I think this is a really important issue, and I think this is something that we, as we start the Latin America Regional Committee, we are looking to do to articulate with chapters, and between them we have one person who's in one of the chapters, so we kind of know his experience, but the idea is to articulate the different groups so that we can all have a conversation a little bit like we're having here. But again, this is at a regional level, right? So right now we're focusing on how do we work with chapters to help create and grow this community. And I think also piggybacking onto what your comment and into the next question a little bit, the whole plurality thing, I think it's really important that we have these conversations, like these types of things, so we understand what the issues are for each other. Like, I like to sit in and listen so I know what's going on in other people's heads and realities that are different from mine. And then, you know, I can stop and think about this and say, oh, okay, how can I address this, or how can I deal with this? So I think this type of roundtable thing is important, and it's something that as we get organized, we're hoping that we'll be able to promote a little bit in the community in Latin America. So we want to get to know more people and to know how we can help grow the community in the region, so to speak. So I don't know if that answers your question or if it addresses it, but I do think these regional committees can be like a good way to help organize chapters at a different level, because we're not creating new things. I guess we're looking for the existing structures and trying to like weave them together and get them to collaborate if possible. So thank you. And I'm sorry, I'm Adriana Vivaco from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, and I'm AC Equity at SIGCHI.
Thanks so much. Yeah, there's a comment from Simone saying, we comms team are happy to retweet your chapter announcements news. To find your tweets, please add @SIGCHI. So we've had talks, roundtable sort of like this one, notes. Does anyone have any other ideas on how, we can, as Adriana put it really well, weave chapters together, especially into, larger flagship things like Sikkai?
And I think there is a hand up from Aaron.
Aaron, would you like to take the floor?
Sure, thank you. I'm speaking to you tonight from Sydney, but from the unceded land of the Bedigo people. I think when I look at the chapters, and when I saw the question, it made me just think about the SIGCHI membership that we have does not, to me, represent the full extent of the global HCI community. So across the 24 conferences, there's about 10,000 delegates attend. This year at CHI, there was 5,147 people attend. If you look at the number of students and practitioners who download research publications from SIGCHI, it's tens of thousands of people. If you look at the number of people who engage on social media, if you look at the number of people who are actually making use of the research and the findings and the educational outputs from the community, it's much bigger than the few thousand SIGCHI members. So when I see that picture of where the membership are, it makes me think about where are the hidden corners, where are the emerging communities, where are the growing user groups, where the growing membership. Because I don't think SIGCHI membership itself fully captures the true extent. Because if it does, if it's a few thousand people, that's terribly scary to me. Because if we look out in the world at all the places where we have systems and need for people interested in HCI in terms of practice and research, it's in hundreds of thousands of places in systems and government and NGOs and places that where humans and computers are interacting with each other. So we need to have a very, very large community. And to me, that picture only captures a very small fragment. And that's why I think chapters are interesting, because I mean, I've been involved in probably like 12 chapter events, or sorry, 12 chapters around the world at different types of events. I helped found a couple of chapters in my time in different places. And you meet huge numbers of very committed individuals who are part of chapters and have no interest in being part of SIGCHI itself or the ACM, but they are still incredibly important members of the global HCI community. And I think that's the challenge for SIGCHI, is that just membership alone is not what we're thinking of. We're thinking of these bigger, broader constituencies of individuals who are part of the global HCI community.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. I think that's a really good point. How do we bridge, and what are the barriers between, say, SIGCHI membership and HCI research, or people who are attending these conferences?
Kayla, I'll just add a quick word to that. I think the false negatives and the false positives, which is that, people who are members, not all of them may be active as well in the SIGCHI community, right? So there is something to be said about just kind of rethinking membership from scratch and really kind of questioning what SIGCHI membership really offers. And I think this is another question that came up the other day, 2 days ago, with chapters, which was, what does membership of a chapter look like? How is that different from membership of SIGCHI? And how is that different from membership of the ACM? And I think that is work that we need to do to communicate clearly, like what is membership really going to offer? So I don't know if that's something anyone wants to add to. Otherwise, maybe we could go to the language question.
Hi, Neha. Can you hear me? This is Rucha.
Rucha.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Very faintly. Is there a way for you to turn up the volume, or is it on my end?
Is this fine now?
Say again.
Yeah, there is
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
great internet I have. That's why I don't have my video on. So I will just say a few words about you correctly said, you and Aaron, that I totally agree that you know what ACM as a membership or Sikkai as a membership offers. It's really need to rethink, or you know, if we can add to that, or you know, think about HCI as a community. And different people play different roles. Like 2 days back, I was talking about professionals and HCI researchers, and what we offer for you know, both these kind of people, and even for the students. So if we can, you know, think about different people come from a different background, and what Sikkai as a community can offer them if they become a member, then you know, it will be they'll be more willing to become a member as a community, and you know, HCI can grow with that. So yeah.
Yeah, can I add something on that one? So actually, like this is a very interesting questions, because I think what happened is that people sometimes is confused. Like I know that sometimes like I feel that chapters is a bit detached from the whole like the chapter membership, because in order to become a chapter, we only required 3 to 5 people, which is the officers, to become the members of SEM and Sikkai. And then also in the system, it's actually, you can actually ask anyone to join the chapters and participate in the chapter activities without being a member. And then they also get some freebies, for example, like 3 months of the subscription of the Interaction magazine, which is like for free as well if you are like in the chapters for 3 months. So I think one way to integrate that, so we can have actually, because the numbers of members in the chapter, sometimes some chapters, they got a lot of members internally, but they are not member of Sikkai or SEM. It's sometimes people don't really know like what is actually SEM or Sikkai. It's just like, well, SEM, Sikkai, this is a really good thing, but not necessary to become a member. So I think one way we can actually do is like making the chapter is actually part of the optional thing. We don't necessarily have to pay extra to become chapter members or Sikkai members, but if you become a member of Sikkai and then member of Sikkai, there is a list of chapters. You can actually become part of it. So that way, actually, I was thinking it may be like adding for like an internationalism of the Sikkai. For example, some chapters, they are not really like connected with anything, and they all only have like a small number of people. But if, for example, some people from Singapore or from Indonesia, and they join perhaps Latam chapters, for example, they probably would not really completely understand what is going on, but becoming a member actually in creating connection between other chapters, and it can be, I think, in my opinion, can be a really good start. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking.
Thank you, Eunice. Just turning to the chat really quickly here, I'm going to try and catch us all up. Pranjal, if I've pronounced that correctly, has said the regional committees could help bridge the communication across chapters. Chapters primarily build local community. Regional committee could connect local chapters, which is a great point. Soraya has added, many people ask me about what are the benefits of being a Sikkai member, which Eunice has touched on some of those, something we could return to after maybe we tackle the question about language. Aaron has added, membership is very confusing for everyone. And yeah, it certainly was for me when I first came into HCI. There's confusion about the membership of ACM and Sikkai, and to start the chapter, one needs to have the SIGCHI membership. Hence, there's an inertia to take SIGCHI membership. Vino's added, it truly is. Soraya's added, should we think of providing information on this in different formats and languages? I'm sure all chapters would be happy to translate for their/our countries. Neha said that sounds like a lovely idea. And Vino's added, I asked a question about on our Slack channel about which membership, ACM, SIGCHI, SIGMM, I should renew. I want to continue organizing conferences because I have an ACM DL access through my organization. I'm still waiting for a response. And Aaron's added ACM versus SIGCHI chapter membership versus conference delegate versus community member versus reviewer versus organizer. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple titles here and it does get very confusing. Not even to get into like, actually, no, let's do that now, like language. This is something that's come up again and again and again. And how might we be able to actually be more inclusive when it comes to regional differences and language? Translation, interpreters have come up in the past. I mean, the UN can do it. They have technologies for it. And we are an HCI community.
So I want to add to that I did get some answers from ops regarding what we can support currently in different languages. And I think that there are some places, like for instance, the talks that we record the videos of, you know, those as we did in the town hall. Soraya did her portion of the talk in Portuguese. And we had subtitles. So there's certainly some types of language supports that we have. And I guess it would be great to hear from folks here what you think of other types of language support that would be helpful to support, maybe even with comms, if not operations.
While everyone's dwelling on that for a moment, I'm just going to keep us up to date on the chat. So Melissa's adding to Aaron's comment, there's lots of HCI researchers and UX practitioners that have never attended an ACM conference. Eunice points out the IEEE journal rationale for this, and I see more involvement with IFIP and targeting of broader journals amongst the Proteachi members. The cost of SIGCHI/ACM membership, the separation of the two is a new factor to consider, has been a barrier, so cost. But also it's not clear to people what the benefit is without the ACM conference attendance. Sorry, reading is very hard at this time of day. Neha's added, yes, Susan, this came up in our first equity talk. Rucha has added, to form a chapter in India, having 10 members is mandatory. ACM and SIGCHI membership for the first year.
Maybe I will just talk about the things that Melissa said before about there's a lot of HCI researchers and UX practitioners that have never attended an ACM conference, which is right. And just want to acknowledge what Neha just in her team for the development funding. Like she actually just supported the group, which is quite like a worldwide activities called UX 24 hours. It's like the whole, like a 24 hours, there are a lot of UX activities, and this person actually, they are mostly like not from the academic, but a lot of them like they are actually from chapters as well, and which is good. And I think this is something that we really need to work more about this, because a lot of the students, when they graduate, they probably do not need to go to the academic. They need to go to the industry, and a lot of the part that available right now, they are mostly like what I see is on the academic journal and things like that. And if we have more opportunity to reach out the community and funding to the development funding more of the events, the industry events. For example, one of the things that the chapters in Cairo is it's an industry event called IRIS, and they got support from the chapter funding before the name changed to development funding. And they invited one of the EC member as the keynote speakers, and the previous years but it's kind of like a mix between the academics, like a practitioner, and the academic, which is a really good, because it's a building the bridge between the academic and the industry. And I think we should do more on that one, because actually when we started to talk, then I mean it's a really complement each other. I personally am not from the academic. Academic is probably maybe if you have a 80-20, academic is my 20%. So when I started all the work in Southeast Asia and in Asia, it's always you will find the word of Kai and UX or HEI and UX all the time. So it's actually bring people together, and we know that it's actually really worked, because people when we started to go with the HEI, then people will be, oh, well, I don't really know what HEI, that's all the professor would say about that. But when you come to people with UX, well, even in the academic, people learn about UX. So I think it's again back to language again, how we can actually pitch the concept to people, and more often with this opportunity, I think, yeah, so that's one way how we can reach out. And for example, the chapter members in US, for example, in Bay Kai or maybe in Boston, they are mostly the practitioners, which is very interesting. When they have a meeting, they are coming from different companies. We should have more of that. I think that's what I want to address in what from Elisa said before.
Thank you, Eunice. Pranjal, I believe you've had your hand up for a while now.
Hi everyone, I'm Pranjal from New Delhi, India. I used to be the chair for SIGCHI VP in 2018-2019. Currently, I mentor them. So one of the question or the point I would like to raise as well, that most of the initiatives in SIGCHI depends on the volunteers, and hence we need to be conscious of the time which the committee puts in to run these things, whether it is conference, whether it is review process and chapters. So it is the volunteers, the volunteer time, which make all of these things sustainable. So at large, how can we think of making or giving value to this time? And chapters time is also very crucial to be sustainable. So we value the people who give their time for conference and review, but how could we think of the time they put in for the chapter to be sustainable? Thank you.
No, thank you. I think just before we actually talk about the labor and time involved with this, I just want to sort of go back, keep us up with a bit of language, since, yeah, that's been going on in the chat a lot here. So, and then we can turn maybe back to that question since it's come up in Slido as well. So, yeah, Naomi has a very popular comment here in the chat regarding language. Some conferences seem to offer language support for non-native English authors when they submit papers. Could this be something we think about? There is some helpful links from Stacy and Neha posted in the chat. And then Stacy has added, it says, enter the names of at least 10 individuals willing to carry out the chapter's mission and participate in activities. Maybe they need to be members in the system. Susan added, could chapters organize a special issue of interactions that was in a local language? For example, at the SIGCHI Across Borders session in Guatemala City several years ago, we discussed having a Spanish issue, or at least a section. Doing this in a blog post isn't the same thing. Completely agree. Melissa's added, as a newer chapter in a region without a cohesive HCI identity, we offer free membership everyone interested in the Proteakai chapter. I haven't yet pushed SIGCHI or ACM membership. Members are hesitant about the perceived Americanness of ACM, which again has also come up. I feel it would be detrimental to the community to strengthen that tie beyond the formal international affiliation. Proteakai as SIGCHI chapter enables us to lend our support to Afrikai conference funds and summer schools. My overarching goal for the chapter is to build community around HCI in the country, to bridge industry, practice, research, teaching efforts, and to just get to know the other HCI researchers here. Eunice has said, Melissa, maybe you want to talk with Jenny Pei, I believe, from Melbourne. She has been working hard to bring connection between academic and practitioners. Yeah, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing my voice. So if anyone else would like to speak for a moment, either to the language issue, which has come up numerous times, or to labor and volunteer work, the Slido comment that I'm thinking about here was...
I'm just going to quickly add, I think Susan's point, which is also true, the piece about interactions articles being in other languages. I think that they've been more and more welcoming to articles that are in authors' own languages that are not English.
I have two things to add. One on the languages. I mean, even it is a problem to translate languages to different ones. I mean, you can obviously look at the popular ones. And so I work for an organization that has this issue with spreading news that tends to, you have to spread it in the language of choice to the community. And you need to come up with a sustainable model of doing it so that you can have something that is repeatable on a yearly basis. So we can, of course, ask for volunteers to do it. But I think, what we should be working towards is, putting a little bit of budget into operations to say, we are going to think of translating into popular languages like Susan has listed, for instance. So, Chinese, Korean, Spanish, maybe even languages that we think we want to get more communities sort of involvement. So, if you think Latin America is the place that we want to go to, then Portuguese might be the language of choice that you translate things to. The other thing is to decide which ones need translating. So where you can have the most impact in terms of translating different things. So, academic papers might not be your immediate choice. It could be keynotes at conferences. It could be instructions on how to do things. Things that are vitally important and also inspirational perhaps might be the things that you choose to translate to different languages, get people hooked in, and then decide how you might evolve that service. So whatever the method is, there needs to be sort of a strategic thinking to say, these are the ways we want to translate, and these are the ways we want to include people. Otherwise, beyond the next sort of the incumbent EC, all that just fails and falls down, and it's not a sustainable process. The regions ones, I really liked Melissa's point. I think different chapters are placed in different regions, and they all seem to have very different needs. And there is the question of how do we balance the encouraging, local HCI and sort of encouraging the charms and the ways of working that they come up with. And then how do you, also cross ties between those regions to learn from each other and encourage them to sort of just make us less American, I suppose, if that's the sort of thing that we are looking at. So I'm slightly worried that a lot of policies, especially when it comes to chapters, might be taken to sort of just cover everything. Someone says, oh, my chapter needs, I would rather a policy where someone goes, my chapter needs more industry involvement, and therefore these are the policies that I would like funding or support or help with. And then the next chapter comes up and says, I actually need local mentorship, and therefore those are the funding or support mechanisms that you give for that particular chapter. And so your policy or the way you build structural change has to also somehow build in ways to get that local individual sort of charms that you get from specific chapters. Otherwise, again, we're just making policy for the sake of policy, and it's not really taking care of the problem.
That is an excellent comment, Vino. Yeah, having mechanisms for both being able to request additional support to, as has come up, strengthen local chapters while increasing visibility. And yeah, just having mechanisms to be able to like make and meet demands is necessary. As we have 15 minutes left of recorded time, is there anyone who hasn't had an opportunity to speak that might like to? We will, after the next 15 minutes of recorded time, be able to take account of any sort of additional issues, have a list of, you know, things that we couldn't touch on here that we might in the next one. But in the chat here, Vino said, this is the thing, balancing the charms of local HCI group versus encouraging international ties. Neha has added, interaction seems to be more and more welcoming to articles that are in authors' own languages, if I'm not mistaken. Susan added, the chapters in UXPA historically did the translations. That was very challenging, as Vino said, but now they use professional translators. Rucha's added, at Soraya, I had a discussion with ACM India, Eunice and Helena before forming the chapter. I'll share the link in a while. Sorry for replying late. I didn't check the chat. Soraya also added, since last year, the Brazilian chapter started a series of bi-weekly webinars. Maybe we could invite other chapter chairs to give a talk in these. This can be a nice collaboration between us. But again, we have the language problem. Not everyone is fluent in English in Brazil, especially undergrad students. Perfect. And in the Slido here, the next upvoted question is, how can we be more welcoming toward those outside of SIGCHI, those that are non-HCI or interested in UX education, not research, for example?
I think that's a,
yeah.
Sorry, Eunice.
Okay.
I was just going to say
ahead.
that you already tried to address that a bit, right, in your previous answer. And that's also the blog post that I had shared that Josh had written, which might be a good read on exactly this question. So we could maybe go on to the question that Eunice noted in the chat, Kale, the one that's about sustaining student chapters. I think that came up a couple of times 2 days ago.
Yeah, actually, if you'd like to read that out loud, and just before you do, Susan has just sort of added that UXPA does translate abstracts of their UX magazine articles. But yeah, sorry, go for it.
So the suggestion in the question was, and I've paraphrased it here because there were two different questions about this. It was about student chapters being harder to sustain as compared to professional chapters. And we did discuss a little bit a couple of days ago why that could be so and what we could do to try to change that. But are there thoughts here that you'd like to share?
Well, I probably want to start, and I think some people from the students chapters like Pranjal or anyone else, maybe they can add. But I think this is a really valid question because the purpose, the goal that each of the student chapter when it was initially created was actually to give an opportunity for the students to become part of the larger community, which is the Sikkai community. And as you all know, like students, they are not like in the same university and they become like a professional. So they want sometimes like want to maintain the fee for the students, but they can't do it anymore. But they need to become the professional chapters. But other than that, I mean, like when they are in the industry, they kind of like a loss, or if they want to start something. And when they were like one thing that I found is like when they are in the student chapter, they are always like a mentored by someone from the university to run their chapters. I think I've been thinking about that, like how actually we can sustain that, because after 3 years, like they are gone, or maybe 1 year, if it is like a master student, they are gone. So what actually we have to work on, in my opinion, is like to work with the mentor. And then the mentor actually is someone that we need to like treat not as just person like to sign off, but as the person who is the champion to create new new chapter, to recruit more people. And we haven't done much on that one because we just so happy to have a lot of students and then new student chapters. But yeah, I think it is a good time to think about the sustainability of that, especially like a kind of like I'm thinking of creating a program actually for the mentors and for the existing officers, giving them like an idea, maybe one day with the one day becoming like a chapter leader. And actually it's just like a it's just like it's just a day, just like the existing student who are not a leader or something like that. They are just feeling to become a leader and leading something. So it's more like an activity or a program or something like that. So basically, it's just helping the chapter to pass the baton to the new people, because this problem is actually not just the student chapter, but also the professional chapters. Once someone finishes, and then a lot of time, like a lot of people, they, okay, done, my job done, I got what I want. And then it's like nobody is actually doing the chapter, and then the chapter die and got the chapter. And this is something, it's quite sad, but there should be a way to help this process, the mechanism. And it's really something that I really want to do, like for this passing the baton. Maybe I can put that into the, what is it, like the suggestion for the new EC chapter.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Eunice. To catch us up in chat still, Melissa has added, Lucas translated our interactions article on translations to Portuguese. I guess that special issue would have been a nice opportunity to have many translations, although the article was about research practice translation rather than language. Susan added, could we have different types of chapter organizations that we support, like Vino is saying? Neha added, yes, Melissa, that was the one I was thinking of, thank you. Aaron added, this year we worked on getting our CHI 2021 welcome message translated into 42 languages, which relied 100% on volunteer effort and resulted in a number of tricky issues coming up. Melissa adds, I really appreciate that Eunice has been making the effort to hold chapter office hours on a regular basis and to connect chapter leaders, although I haven't taken advantage of this because I don't have time for extra meetings or even really time to do lots more for the chapters. The growth and activity, the more vocal chapters on Slack can be intimidating or discouraging. And I think this is a nice way, with sort of the 7 minutes of recorded time left, to tie in a few different issues around sort of sustaining the chapters that do start up, questions about flattening the sort of power of governance within SIGCHI, and how, different methods of support and sustainability for chapters might be something worth discussing. If that was actually even a coherent question on my part, let me know if it wasn't. In the chat, I'm seeing, yeah, Aaron's added, Kave, I think this is a great suggestion. With the videos in the town hall, there could be open space for chapters to showcase their work with videos which can be open globally. These videos can be used as ways to showcase and draw in international members who want to connect, present, build links with chapters, such as the video program, which is a great, suggestion for weaving together different chapters of SIGCHI. Susan added in our chapter here in MN, we had a shadowing structure. You'd be their chair in training who'd become the chair the following year. Same thing for UXPA conferences. That helped the continuity. And sorry, I can't actually see any raised hands on my screen. So if you want to just sort of unmute yourself and say hi, that would be perfect.
Hi, Kale. I just raised my hand. Hi, this is Josh. I'm the Asian Development Committee member, liaison for Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore. Just want to add a little bit from what Eunice just said, just share the experience from the Indonesian student chapter. This has been working very well because there's one faculty member who's actually very keen to have this chapter up and running. And the result, there's something that we can see this year. I think some of the student members, they have succeeded to submit to the Asian Kai Symposium, which is very good. They are all the first times, and this actually has sparked a lot of interest in the university and the other universities as well, as an example, a very good example for other universities in Indonesia, because they look, oh, someone, they have just started the student chapter and they have been able to publish something, and they are now very happy about this one. And the impact has been very big for the other member of the chapters, and also for the other member of the communities outside the ASEAN community as well. So this is very good. So this, I just want to share this one, and this is very important. That's why I think student chapter is also something that we really need to think about in the future.
Excellent, thank you. We have about 3 minutes of recorded time. We'll continue for 30 minutes after this, but Neha, actually, if you would like to sort of formally close us out, maybe talk about the next upcoming equity talk and anything else.
Yes, thank you, Kale. So in just a couple minutes that we have, there's an upcoming equity talk on sustainability titled Making Sikkai Sustainable, and that's on Tuesday. It's 4 p.m. GMT. And you can look up the join info on the Sikkai calendar as well. And we're going to be discussing just issues around sustainability with conferences, events, and such. We have some more time here to talk about some things that are coming up and also that are on Slido. So feel free to just raise any questions that you want here. But also if you want to get in touch later, or if you want to talk with other chapters, I guess you have access to Eunice. Eunice also set up the chapter's Discord recently. I don't know if you want to say something more, Eunice?
Yeah, so we actually have the chapter Slack. At the moment, it's mainly for the leaders or the key officers. But we actually started the Discord. Well, thanks to Neha and also the cast here today, like who helped me with setting up this one, because a lot of people who came they are part of the Discord, and now they are part of the chapters. And surprisingly, a lot of people, they do not really know about chapters. And I think this is our work that, to make it more known and make people understand more about this chapter. So please join the Discord. I will just like, if you are not in Discord yet, please join. And I'm gonna paste the, paste the address of the Discord here on the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eunice. I just wanted to add that Eunice also did meet the candidates Zoom call the other day. That was in the chapter's office hours. And I've shared a link here to that recording. So if you're voting in the Sikkai elections, this will give you an introduction to many of the candidates. So you might already know some of them. Aaron is here. I'm here. Adriana, Rucha, Manjari. Let me see, I'm looking on my screen. And I'm sorry if I'm not remembering somebody. But this was a session where I think Naomi also was here, Simona is here. So just, yeah, if you'd like to take a look at that, that was a brief introduction as well, Luis, yes. Sorry about that. I'm not seeing everyone on my screen right now. Yeah, and with that, I think we can close this or shut down the recording, and we can continue. And I think we'll be continuing with Pranjal.